Welcome to a new episode of the Sunday Sauce. I have a man here who really needs no introduction. This is Andrew Giuliani. He's currently running for the governor of New York State. He's the son of the legendary Rudy Guliani. Andrew, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Michael, thank you very much for having me. I'm just getting hungry thinking about the title of Sunday Sauce. And I got to tell you, I feel a little guilty because it's been probably about 10 years since I cooked my family Sunday sauce over here. So I'm going to have to, I don't know if during a gubernatorial campaign, I'm going to have the hours of time to be able to make the Sunday sauce this year. But at some point in the near future, I'm going to have to put in a Sunday afternoon where I can do it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because at least when you do get elected governor, we'll have a governor who actually cooks, because I remember Cuomo actually admitted on live TV, he's 100% Italian, and he admitted he actually buys his sauce, which is a disgrace. So,
I'll tell you, I can't get disowned over here. Now I'm not going to go and sell you like I'm the best cook in the world, because I'm certainly not that. But with a few, maybe give me one or two more trials to get all set up there, ready to go with my Sunday sauce, and it'll be at least edible enough where you'll invite some people over. So that's good.
I love that. Is your dad a good cook, or no? He never cooked.
Dad cooked a little bit, but he wasn't a big cook. My mother actually was on the Food Network right at the beginning of the Food Network for about 5.5, 6 years. So she was the one who, really understood the food world in our family more than anything else. I just think more than anything else, my greatest asset in the whole food world is my ability to eat. Because I unfortunately, if people see pictures of me, I didn't get the olive skin tone, but certainly I got the Italian appetite. I wish it was the other way around.
That's very funny. So, we all know your family history. You grew up in New York, obviously. You actually went to high school in New Jersey, right?
I did. I went to St. Joseph Regional. St. Joseph has been kind of a recurring figure in my life. Although I told my wife, I said, if you tell me what Mary told Joseph, I don't know if I take it the same way, but he's definitely been a recurring figure in my life.
Yeah. So why did you ever think you would even get into politics, or because I know you've always been like a political advisor. You're a hell of a golfer, apparently. This is what I've heard. So what did you ever think about, like, you would even consider being a governor?
Well, I've always stayed around politics, and this is, I remember a little bit of the 1989 campaign when I was 3 years old, more than anything, kind of, going from event to event and licking some envelopes and doing all that. But, politics in so many ways, it's been in my blood. And I think to be able to learn from Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump, two change agents, two people that, were not owned by the establishment like so many politicians are. I think more than anything, it inspired me to see, yes, of course, you can see the worst in politics. You see what they're doing right now to my father. I actually, the other day, was at Mar-a-Lago and met with President Trump. And then afterwards, spent a little bit of time with Kyle Rittenhouse. And I think Kyle is a great example of what we see when you see, that the facts don't matter, that there's just a narrative that comes out there. And I saw that when I went to Duke University with the lacrosse team. We saw it with Kavanaugh when I worked in the White House, getting dragged through the mud with the facts not even mattering. We saw it with Kyle. So to be honest, I've seen the worst in politics, but I've seen the absolute best in it too. I can tell you, when you have someone like a Rudy Giuliani, like a Donald Trump, who's in the right place at the right time with the right team, there's no greater thing you could do with your life to affect change in more people's lives positively.
Right. So, I mean, we're friendly. We've talked, but I really haven't asked you why governor first and not mayor. I know, Curtis ran for mayor. You're obviously friends with Curtis, but why didn't you start at mayor, like your father did, but just go straight for governor?
So I always promised myself, and I promised my father as well, that the first race that I run, I would see a path to victory. And unfortunately, in the mayoral race, and Curtis did an amazing job, and he set so much of, I think, what's going to be a big victory in New York State in 2022 up for us last year in 2021. But I just couldn't see the path to victory for a Republican in 2021 in New York City. being 8-1 Democrat to Republicans, specifically in New York City. And we saw Curtis ran an incredible race and, was almost able to crack 30%. On the flip side, in looking at the governor's race, there is an absolute valid path to victory. We could talk about the narrative all you want, and politicians, myself included, love telling stories. But I love to look at the hard data on this, because you can't twist the data. You need, as a Republican in New York State, to win statewide, you need to win 30 to 33% of New York City. Last year, Curtis ended up winning 29.5% of New York City, running against as conservative a Democrat as he could have run against. Adams was the only one who would admit that crime is a problem. He's not doing much about it now, but he's the only Democrat that would admit that crime was a problem. We're going to be running against a far more liberal opponent with one more year of Biden disastrous policies in the White House. And then on top of that, you look at the gains that we saw in Nassau, in Suffolk, in Albany County, in Erie County, really all around New York State. There is an incredible path to victory just in 7 short months to win this race.
You're absolutely right. And I also actually wanted to congratulate you earlier on getting on the ballot. I forgot to actually tell you that.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Michael. It's been a battle, and I have to thank so many people that went out in March and signed for us, all those people who volunteered for us, our staff who went out in freezing cold weather. We had some good days in March, but we had a whole lot of bad days in March. So to get nearly 25,000 Republicans to sign for us, to withstand a legal challenge from Lee Zeldin, who just dropped it today, as a matter of fact. That's our 3rd victory in the last 7 days against him at the Board of Elections and in court. And, look, I think that's important, because he was lying to New Yorkers and saying that he was not behind trying to throw us off the ballot. I've been very clear from the beginning. I want this to be an open dialogue with New York. I want to make sure that on June 28th, or if our primary gets moved to August, whenever it is, that we have as many candidates as possible out there. That way, New Yorkers can make the decision. Lee has wanted to be the product of the backroom deal in Albany, and he's wanted to kick people off the ballot. Well, he's done it unsuccessfully, and now he's going to have to deal with the open debate, which I think is exactly what a democracy should be all about. We've been championing the 2.9 million registered Republicans should have a voice come June 28th, and Lee has wanted nobody to have a voice on June 28th. Well, I'm thankful to say that all 2.9 million registered Republicans will have their voice, be it on June 28th or be it in August.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Lee Zeldin. I never met him. I know you, obviously. We see each other all the time. We hang out in the same circles. And I always see your people, like even in my prior episodes, I tell everybody, I always see Giuliani's people in Manhattan, in the boroughs, in there. I never see Lee Zeldin's people ever, but I always hear they're in like Queens and Long Island. That's it. I never see his people come to the outer boroughs. I don't understand what's like his strategy,
I think that's been the real difference in strategy from the beginning. Started this campaign on May 18th. So almost a year ago today, we started this campaign, and my strategy has been to make sure that we are getting in touch, and not in an Andrew Cuomo kind of way, but engaging with as many New Yorkers as possible. And that's been the idea. Look, obviously, we're not going to be able to directly contact 2.9 million registered Republicans, but we're going to darn try, and we're going to make sure that we reach out to as many as possible and have that. I really think that Lee expected that he was just going to be able to get crowned the Republican nomination through the party boss. Well, thank goodness we live in a democracy, which is, people can talk about the irony of me saying this, but really it's true. Thank goodness we live in a democracy, and the 2.9 million registered Republicans will have a voice. We were expecting this all along. We knew that it was going to be a push and an uphill battle, but now that we are on the ballot and we have 4 different debates that will be coming up in the month of June, we're excited to make sure that this debate over who should be the nominee for the party comes right into the public forum. Because the truth is, too, that's going to help us even more on November 8th. That's the whole idea about this thing. The more we get our ideas out there, the better we're going to be on November 8th, because our ideas are better than the left's ideas. It's not even close.
I mean, absolutely. Who doesn't like criminals running around and this bail reform? Who likes that? I mean, exactly. Obviously, honestly, some of these Democrats are starting to come around and say, like, all right, I think enough is enough. You know, the regular moderate Democrats. I'm not talking about like the AOCs and
Right.
who, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even Hochul, I'll give her a little credit. She tried to adjust the bail reform and try to press on, these senators and whatever, but obviously nothing happened. So I'll give her a little credit.
Lip service. I wonder if that was just lip service, because the truth is, if you're governor and you can go back to the Shelley Silver versus Pataki law cases. The governor of New York has more power than any of the other 49 governors. And that really actually ends up going back to the judiciary in New York State, hating Sheldon Silver so much that they gave Pataki an inordinate amount of power. So I look at it this way. I think that was a whole media ploy where she said, well, we want to adjust it, but Stuart Cousins and Hastie won't do this. Well, I can tell you very simply, on day one of a Giuliani administration, I will sit down with Stuart Cousins and Hastie and say very simply, my number one priority is completely repealing bail reform. If you don't completely repeal bail reform, we have a budget negotiation coming up. And your top three priorities, I'm not funding it, period. That's where, so understanding your leverage in all this, I think she completely understands her leverage. And I think she just didn't want to actually do anything about bail reform before a Democratic primary. That's my theory on it.
But I feel like, these Democrats, if they just did something about bail reform, got the streets safer, like before November, they would be heroes and they would just win. They would win every single election because, then people wouldn't look to somebody different like yourself or Lee Zeldin. It's like, maybe if I do vote for this guy, they will change the state or the city, right? Is that crazy thinking? I don't know.
I think it's accurate thinking. I think you're absolutely right, but I think they look at the AOCs of the party and they're scared. They're scared of the socialist communist wing. And unfortunately, if you look at so much of, what people like to call the mainstream media, I call it the leftist or the Pravda media. I think you've seen that they've been infiltrated by this ideology as well. We'll take voter ID, for example. 80% of Americans agree with voter ID, which means the majority of Democrats believe that voter ID is something we should happen. If you watch CNN or MSNBC on this, which I haven't watched much of the last year,
it's racist.
What I could tell you exactly, it's racist. It's racist. So to me, the most radical people in the Democratic Party, it's not just the AOCs, but they're running the media organizations as well, and they're certainly pushing the content. So I think that's where and there's very little courage in the Democratic Party. I would say outside of Joe Manchin and maybe Kristen Sinema, there's very little courage in the Democratic Party these days.
Do you think Mitt Romney should just convert to a Democrat already and just cross the floor? What do you think about that?
I think Mitt Romney should retire from public life, to be perfectly honest. He's been a complete disaster. I think voting for both sham impeachments was disgusting. And I think, honestly, history will write Mitt Romney a very bad legacy, because he has been somebody who has continued to be wishy-washy and flip-flop. I mean, you can go back to his time as governor of Massachusetts, and you can look at his presidential runs. Actually, one of the things that I think all of the presidential contenders in 2008, when my father ran, agreed upon was that they all thought Mitt Romney was a disingenuous ass. Excuse my language, but that's really what they said.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people
the answer is yes, he should.
Yeah, I mean, I just actually yesterday, I think I read about him. Oh, Trump will win the 2024 nomination, like sweeping, no problem. But meanwhile, he just impeached. So he's very, I don't understand this man. Very, very silly man. So
yeah, I don't think he has much integrity, and I think that's where it is. And I think the media likes to play him up as having integrity, or I should say the leftist media likes to play him up because he's a thorn in Republican sides. And I think that's more than anything, they like that more than the actual truth.
Do you think, a lot of people ask me, do you think that, I know your dad with the whole Trump thing going on, whatever, it's all hearsay, it's all crap. We know this already, but do you think that would hurt your vote?
I think more than anything, I have to be genuine with New Yorkers. And I'm not going to, in the exact opposite way that Mitt Romney is not genuine, I try to be genuine. I worked 4 years for President Trump in the White House, and I'm proud of my service to the country. And I've known him for 23, 24 years, almost 25 years now. I was just with him a couple of nights ago, and we met before we saw this 2000 Mules movie, which I would certainly recommend anybody taking a look at if you want to know part of the story of the 2020 election, because it's very accurate. And so I'm not going to be disingenuous to voters in New York. If they think my connection to Trump disqualifies me in some kind of way, I think that's the leftist media that's trying to play that up. I think the majority of certainly Republicans and the majority of independents and a lot of Democrats look and say, hey, wait a second. Trump was in office 2 years ago. This is not the thing that I want Democrats to campaign upon. I'm paying $4.50, maybe $5 a gallon for gas prices. I'm paying 20% more for chicken at the grocery store and this and that. I have inflation coming for everything in my life, and I'm having trouble with my paycheck. That's a Joe Biden issue. So I think they're going to have to defend Joe Biden and the crazy radical leftist policies that we've seen. And that extends into New York State with Kathy Hochul.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think a lot of these Democrats now are actually like secretly wish Trump was here, and it kills them to say this because, obviously we know before this war with Ukraine and Russia that the gas prices were already going up. There's a literal chart on a government website. You can't hide it. You can't blame the quote unquote Putin price hike, as Little Red Lying Hood says, Jen Psaki. It's just like the most ridiculous. There's no such thing as a Putin price hike. These people don't understand that? Yes, the U.S. sanctions Putin and stops buying oil from him, but everyone else is going to buy oil from Putin. So he's just still going to be rich. He doesn't care about sanctions. He laughs. It's quite comical, actually.
Well, it is, and I would point anybody with any common sense to the last 7 years of the narrative on this. First off, we saw that Putin, when Obama was president of the United States, annexed Crimea, right? Trump gets in. The media likes to say that Trump is owned by Putin. He's Putin's puppet, all that stuff. Right. What happens over those 4 years, right? He does not approve Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Keystone gets worked on right there. And you have nothing but 31 new sanctions on Russia. And Putin does not take one step forward. Within the first month of Trump leaving office and Biden coming in, all of a sudden, Keystone is cut, Nord Stream 2 is approved, and now Putin is in war trying to annex and take the rest of Ukraine. You tell me who's owned. Tell me who's owned by Putin. It's obvious. It's Obama and it's Biden who's owned by Putin. And Trump did nothing but make it tougher and tougher on crazy tyrants like Putin's lives.
Correct. Not to mention, Biden keeps just sending just unlimited amounts of money that we don't have to Ukraine, just billions and billions of dollars that, we can use here for our homeless veterans, homeless people, our border. I mean, I could just go on and on, all that money he's sending over to Ukraine, but Hunter Biden had business there. So he's looking out for his son. And I just read actually, Joe Biden won't do that IRS audit because it actually might show that he profited from Hunter's business partners. So there you go.
Yeah, I think, when President Trump mentioned America first and talked about it, and really that's exactly how he lived his administration. This wasn't something that he just said. This is something that every single day we live by. It was America first. It didn't mean America only, but it just meant that a strong America was going to be strong for the rest of the world, for the democratic forces around the world. And we saw that with Israel, how much stronger Israel was able to get, one of our great allies here.
Right.
When you continue to give your money and American taxpayer dollars away with complete disregard for the actual price. I mean, first off, it contributes to our inflation, but it also never actually addresses some of the major issues that we're dealing with here in the United States of America that could be helping those very taxpayers that are paying into that. And I think that's where, the media, and I think that's where the Democrats just have a total disregard for dollars, for taxpayer dollars.
Of course, because they're all about distributing other people's wealth. If other people work hard for their money, like Elon Musk and, those kind of people, especially Elon Musk now, because he wants to take over Twitter. They want to give all his money away. He should pay taxes, blah, blah. But these laws that he doesn't have to pay certain taxes because is what lawmakers who've been in office for 40, 50 years created. So he's just and President Trump as well. When he's just following the laws that were created by people who were in office way before him. So I don't understand why these people get angry with him. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I think it's very simple. They get angry with him because he doesn't go along with what we've seen in this social media movement, which is we're going to silence conservatives and we're going to allow the Ayatollah to say death to Jews, which is absolutely radical. Think about it. It's wild when you actually put that and you get that out there and you look at some of the things that have been censored on the left, on the right. And some of the things, I don't even say on the left, some of the things that are just completely anti-Semitic that, it's tough to believe this, but that's truly where I think so many of these social media CEOs have been. And that's why you saw Twitter having, a complete backlash when they found out that Elon Musk was buying this thing. Look, I always am careful to put my eggs in one basket with one person, but I do think there was great progress for the First Amendment when he bought Twitter, and I'm certainly hopeful that it can be again a public square as it was supposed to be, and not a publishing company. Because I always said this: as soon as Republicans won back the House and took the oath of office on January 3rd in 2023, we would know who was owned by big tech or not. Because any Republican, any conservative that did not work to repeal Section 230A, in my mind, is bought and owned by big tech.
Of course. I mean, it's like I said, it's like you said, the Ayatollah says death to Jews, death to America. I mean, even on a local standpoint, I live in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. The neighborhood. I have a local councilman and senator who are both liberals. Every year, the Palestinians have something called the Day of Rage. They go in the middle. They go to the middle of Bay Ridge, right on Fifth Avenue, very busy block. They burn American flags and Israeli flags together, scream death to America, death to Israel. This is in America. I mean, this is unacceptable. And the councilman and the senator just let it go, and they don't say anything. This is the kind of world that we live in right now with all these crazy leftist liberals. It's disgusting. So to allow that to happen with, basically no attention and just kind of allowing it to go on, yet when the New York Post ends up pointing out what we've found out as a fact, what I knew over a year and a half ago were facts about Hunter Biden's laptop and about basically Joe Biden being owned by China and by Burisma, that stuff is now not allowed in the public sphere because you have some radicals who are running policy at Twitter who decide to deplatform. Right. Or think about this, and this is one thing that I always love to talk about because I think it just is a great example of everything. Anybody who is an elected official, right? If you're elected, you have been chosen by New Yorkers, by Americans, by whoever your constituency is to be your voice. Mm-hmm. That person should never be deplatformed. That, in my opinion, because what you're doing is you're actually deplatforming all of those people who have said, I want them to be my voice. Look, I think AOC is one of the most dangerous voices in our country right now. And I think what she's pushing, as somebody whose wife came from communism, I think what she's pushing is extremely dangerous. And I would argue not just un-American, but, just radical. Absolutely.
But she has been elected to be the representative for New Yorkers. So to me, I say, well, look, she should have the opportunity for those New Yorkers to be able to say what New Yorkers have elected her to say in the public sphere. If New Yorkers don't like it, then in 2 years, they should vote her out. But how do you deplatform a president of the United States that got 74 million Americans to vote for her? It's beyond radical, and it just drives me nuts.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, Putin invaded a country, kills women, rapes boys, his army, and he still has a Twitter, but Donald Trump doesn't have a Twitter. This is the kind of world we live in these days. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts. Andrew, I know you gave me a lot of time, so I have one last thing. Everyone always asks me, what did you think of the Chris Farley Saturday Night Live sketch about you? Please.
I wish I would have had a chance to meet him. One of the things when I was working in the White House that first weekend, made fun of Sean Spicer. And I went up to him the next day and I said, Sean, Melissa's pretty good, but it's not going to top the Chris Farley imitation. So.
Yeah, so you're a fan then. You're a fan.
Oh, absolutely. And I wish I would have had a chance to meet him. It's, one of those things that's because it's on his best of, it's, people have seen this now for 27, 28 years.
Yep.
I actually just had the opportunity to go on stage with Jim Brewer, another veteran of Saturday Night Live. A couple of weeks back. And he actually ended up doing a skit called The Joe Pesci Show. And he interviewed my father on that show on SNL. But we were talking about how talented Farley was. And he was saying, toward the end of Farley's life, when he was obviously struggling with substance abuse, during the rehearsals, he wasn't nailing it. He wasn't great. And Jim was saying, his chest was out. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually outperforming Farley in these rehearsals. Wow. And he said, as soon as the light went on, as soon as it went live, Farley just took it to another level that he had never seen before. And that's the kind of performer that he was. And obviously a troubled guy, but from everything that I knew and everything that I had heard, a guy that brought a lot of joy to people's lives, not just from what they saw on Saturday Night Live and in his movies, but also in his life. He was a good guy from what I heard.
Amazing. All right. So where do we go to help you donate? How do we help you? Social media? Go ahead.
Go to nyforgiuliani.com. That's nyforgiuliani.com. And click on the volunteer button. We can use as many volunteers as possible with what looks like about 8 weeks before our primary. We'll see about that here in the next week, whether that stays on that date or moves back to August. Or feel free to donate. If you got a couple bucks, buy a hat. We got some great Giuliani merchandise on there. We love the red hats. Actually, believe it or not, the hat was designed by President Trump. I showed it to him and he gave me a little piece of advice to, move this over here. And so I said, well, can I say it's designed by President Trump? He said, yes, you can. So I said, okay, great. It's designed by President Trump. So
love that. I love that. All right, Andrew. Well, listen, thank you for your time and good luck. I know you got this and I'm looking forward to see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.